underneath his bed is where they found the bones of children and some broken daggers.
This is probably one of the places where you wouldn't really want to be up here on your own.
Right, well, I volunteered, and I don't know if it was a foolish thing to do, but I'm now sat on my own on the first floor.
There was a young girl who hung herself.
That's really strange. That camera's just shut off there.
Is it you that's seen inside this room?
Yes, sir, yes. Even poison. Manufactured record. Yes, sir. Go. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Here we go. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Here we go. It's like a light is in my face, but I can't fall for you. I close my eyes and drift away. I've overdosed on you. Cause then you wake up dead one day.
The ancient Ram Inn is listed as one of the most haunted places in England and dates back as far as 1145. No one knows the exact date, but it is documented when records first started by William Fitzrobert, heir to Lord Berkeley, had served as the first rector of Wotton. Before the construction of the Ram Inn, the site was home to a multi-millennia pagan burial ground, which is also on the ley lines that trace back to Stonehenge. In 1283, the construction of the nearby St Mary's Church began, and the Bishop of Worcester, Godfrey Giffard, set up residence at the inn, along with the masons and other craftsmen employed to do the construction. The site stands today as the oldest building in Wotton under Edge, including among its various historical artefacts the oldest wooden window frame in Britain, as well as the earliest surviving board game, Nine Men's Morris, which appears carved into a stone inglenook dated to 1540. In 1891, the trustees of Wotton Under Edge Charities leased the building to Arnold Parrott & Co Limited when it was then converted into an inn. The first landlord of the Ram Inn was Joseph Pinnell. It changed hands several times throughout the 1800s, and the last landlords to acquire the property from 1939 till 1963 were Lewis Raymond Allen, Les White and Bill Peake. The building lay abandoned, and it was listed for demolition as part of a council plan to widen the road. But it was saved when John Humphries, a local carpenter and former train driver, purchased the inn from the Whitbread Brewery in 1968 for the price of £2,600. John moved into the Ram Inn with his wife Barbara and their 3 children. On the first night, whilst John was sleeping, he states that he was grabbed by his wrists and pulled from his bed. Even though John would come into contact with the many spirits that resided within the ancient Ram Inn and also being attacked on a regular basis, even when his wife and 3 children left the building, John still refused to move out of his home. The once Bishop of Gloucester, Reverend John Yates, carried out an exorcism at the Ram Inn and failed. He was quoted in the Western Daily Press saying, "It was the most evil place I have ever had the misfortune to visit." Many guests that stayed at the Ram Inn during the 1970s would also have their paranormal experiences. A doctor, his wife and their young daughter were staying in the Berkeley Room, which is now called the Bishop's Room, and during the night they saw the apparition of a monk standing in front of the fireplace. Another room, which was partitioned off from the Berkeley Room, was known as Uncle Tom's Cabin. There, many guests have reported seeing a lady in blue dressed as a maid. Guests that stayed in the Bishop's Room also report the sounds of furniture being dragged across the floor from the attic above. During John's time in the inn, children's bones were discovered under the floor with broken daggers, which were part of a human sacrifice in pagan ritual dating back thousands of years. A mummified cat was discovered inside a wall to ward off evil spirits, and other items were found connected to devil worshipping. Records have now been discovered that the Mayflower barn was once a Saxon prayer house, and the deeds to the Ram Inn, which are in Norman French, are held at the Gloucester Records Office, stating that the building is in time memorial, meaning no people have any knowledge or memory from a past long gone. John Humphries died in December 2017. The ancient Ram Inn has a very dark history. In the weaver's attic, a former innkeeper's daughter hung herself from the beams above. Also, the spirit of a young boy has been seen. William Crewe and Scouse, England's last 2 highwaymen, had a hideout in the attic. They were caught and executed on Friday the 21st of April, 1786. The Witch's Room. In the 1500s, Mary Gibbons took refuge in this room from witch hunters, but she was eventually caught and burnt at the stake. Her spirit is believed to still haunt this room. The Bishop's Room. The room is said to be haunted by several bishops. Dark-robed monks and other evil spirits are said to occupy this room. A priest named Charles Lancery murdered his illegitimate daughter Rosie, aged 7, in 1290. And screams are still heard from a man who had his head pushed into the flames in the fireplace. The Mayflower Barn. An entity named Edward has attacked many visitors who walk into this area. The staircase from the ground floor to the first floor. People have been pushed by unseen hands. We was just walking through, myself and Phil, looking where we're going to put our static cams for this evening. And as we were just discussing the position to put the static cam down here to look through, there was movement down the end there. It was like creaking on the floor. I'm not sure if it came from what they call the Mayflower Barn, or if it was up the stairs there. Hello? Is there anyone upstairs? We have our static cams in place. Static cam 1 is in the men's kitchen. Static cam 2 is on the first floor hallway. Static cam 3 is in the Mayflower Barn. Static cam 4 is in the Bishop's Room. Static cam 5 is located in the Weaver's attic. Static cam 6 is in the Witch's Room. We have also placed motion detector lights on the first floor, inside the Bishop's Room, the Weaver's attic, and the Witch's Room. We start the investigation in the men's kitchen, where John Humphries was attacked while sleeping in his bed, and where children's bones were discovered under the floor. So here we are, starting off our investigation at the Ancient Ram Inn. We've set up our static cams throughout the building, and also motion detector lights that will pick up movement and also shadow movement. And we've placed 4 of those upstairs in the rooms and also in the hallway. Now, just over there is where John Humphries used to sleep. And that's where he had his bed, where he was grabbed by the wrists and pulled out of that bed on his first night here in 1968. And underneath his bed is where they found the bones of children and some broken daggers. which were part of some pagan sacrifice a long time ago. It's believed that the Ram Inn is built on top of a pagan burial ground. So can I ask, is this building on top of a pagan burial ground? If you could do something, shout out, move something, can you do that for us, please? Who was it that grabbed John and pulled him from his bed? Who did that? And why did you do that? All was quiet and silent in the men's kitchen. So we moved on to the Mayflower barn, where a spirit named Edward is said to attack unwelcomed visitors.
Okay, you join us in the Mayflower barn. This is certainly the oldest part of the ancient Ram Inn, and it's believed that this was actually a Saxon prayer house. There's no written records to confirm that, but I know English Heritage have looked at it and they've said that it certainly is the same in design as many others which are known. So yeah, very old building. Now when we were last here, Mark did a solo session, and he was sat pretty much here. It was slightly different. There was a lot more in here. There was motorbikes and stuff, and we couldn't sit where I'm sat now. But Mark was sat probably about 2 foot in front of me on a chair, and he was pushed off of it. There was a little bit of controversy about whether he was pushed, whether he fell, or somebody even suggested that he did it on purpose, which I don't believe for a minute. I believe Mark, and certainly looking at the video footage, I can see that he was genuinely really scared when it happened. So what I'm going to ask is if the spirit that was here that pushed Mark could come and join us, and communicate with us and tell us why you felt the need to do that. Join me now. Now I believe that you're known as Edward. So Edward, my name is Phil. Make yourself known to us. Why haven't you made yourself known? Is it because there are 3 of us in here Does that bother you? Do you only do things when there's one person on their own? Mark is sat a little way away from me on his own, on the same chair that he was on last time. I would ask you not to pick on him. Don't do it again. Do something else. Whether it's move this table, which is in front of us,
Voices are heard coming from within the barn. A child starts to sing, and a female's voice says, "Hey, please be quiet." Here is the audio taken from Phil's digital recorder.
whether it's move this table, which is in front of us, whether it's move this table, which is in front of us,
After covering the ground floor, we now go up to the first floor. Our next stop is the witch's room.
We've now come up to what's called the witch's room, and the story behind this room is there was a witch in the 1500s called Mary Gibbons that came up here to seek refuge from obviously the witch finders. Well, that wasn't successful, and she was caught and burnt at the stake from what we can gather. Now this room's quite active. The last time we were here, Phil was sat on a chair there by the door and he felt somebody mess with the chair. We also heard walking on the landing out there, and there's been many other reports of strange things happening in this room. So I'd like to call out to Mary. If you come back to visit this place, or in fact you're stuck here because this was the last place that you were and tried to seek refuge, come on now, surely there's somebody here who wants to make themselves known. Come up and touch this device, this grey thing here, and it'll let us know you're here. It'll change colour.
Mark's digital recorder has captured a voice saying, "I'm Mary." Here is the enhanced audio.
And it'll let us know you're here. It'll change colour. And it'll let us know you're here. It'll change colour.
We leave the witch's room and we all take a break and go outside. Several minutes after we leave, our static cam 2, which is located on the first floor hallway, captures the sound of running on the stairs. We re-enter the location and go back up to the first floor to the Bishop's room, which is said to be the most haunted room within the building. So we're here, which is claimed to be the most haunted part of the inn, which is the Bishop's room. Originally it was known as the Berkeley room. Is it possible we can speak to the Bishop, please? Back in 1283, there was a bishop here, and he was overseeing the construction of St Mary's Church, which is not far from here, just down the road. And he lived here, and he had masons and craftsmen stay here. So he was in charge, and that was back in 1283, and his name was Godfrey Giffard. He was a bishop of Gloucester. Are you here, Godfrey? Is it you that's seen inside this room? I ask if the Bishop, Godfrey Giffard, is one that is seen inside the room, and my digital recorder picks up a man that is laughing. Here is the audio with enhancements. Is it you that's seen inside this room? Is it you that's seen inside this room? Nothing else was documented inside the Bishop's room. That is, until we leave. Several minutes later, whilst we are on the other side of the building setting up for our next session, the motion detector, which is on the wooden weaving wheel at the back of the room, activates as it detects movement with the loud sound of something being dragged across the floor. We go up to the weaver's attic. This is where the hideout of the last two highwaymen, Scouse and crew, and where the daughter of a previous landlord hung herself. There are also reports as far back as the late 1960s that a small boy has been seen in this area.
Well, we're back up in the Weaver's attic. This is probably one of the places where you wouldn't really want to be up here on your own. Maybe it's just because it's the furthest away from an escape route, I don't know. Now, last time I did a session up here, I was sat just down there. We all were, in fact, and we started to hear banging and walking. Now, so far this evening, we haven't experienced a lot. That doesn't mean to say we haven't captured anything, because we've had static cams rolling throughout the evening. So this is really my last opportunity to ask if there's any spirits here. Could you come and make contact with me, please? Something which I didn't know last time we were here, and I know the owner Caroline has mentioned it, is that there was a young girl who hung herself up here, presumably from the rafters. That's very sad. Very sad that you felt the need that you had to do that and there was no other way out. Nobody to talk to. If that was you, if you took your own life up here, could you come and tell me why you felt you had to do that? We can give you the opportunity to talk. Tell us how you were feeling, why you did it.
Although we were in the Weaver's attic for some time, all was very quiet. So we prepare for the last session. Phil and I will leave the building, leaving Mark all alone on the first floor hallway.
Right, well, I volunteered, and I don't know if it was a foolish thing to do, but I'm now sat on my own on the first floor on a little landing area, which is the intersection to all of the different rooms that go off it. I've got the infamous Bishop's room down that way. I've got the one that's called the den that way. The witch's room's down that corridor there, and to my right is the staircase going up to the attic. So I'm sort of in the thick of it really here if anything happens. Is there anybody here with me who would like to introduce themselves? If so, please speak into this little red light. Let me know you're here. I think I can hear movement from up in the attic. Who's up in the attic? Just staying silent for a bit, see if I can hear anything, get myself accustomed to the different noises. Now it is raining quite heavy outside, so you might be able to hear the drops from that. Do I have Crew and Scouse here, or maybe the Bishop? Or Mary from the room down there? That's really strange. That camera's just shut off there. I'm going to have to check how much battery it had left on it, but I'm sure it had longer than that. Is somebody playing with my camera there? Who is it? I'm just going to check that camera's battery to see if it actually did run out. No, it's dead.
Mark has been up on the first floor for just under 20 minutes. We always make sure that the cameras have enough battery life for every session we do. When reviewing the setup of Mark's session, you can clearly hear me say that there is 43 minutes on the camera.
How much battery life you got left in that one?
I've got 43 minutes in this one.
How much battery life you got left in that one?
I've got 43 minutes in this one.
Also, at the time as the camera's battery dies, there are several lights that flash inside the witch's room. Here is the footage taken from the static cam inside the room, followed by the footage enhanced and in slow motion. We complete our investigation at one of the most haunted locations in the UK, the ancient Ram Inn. And, once again, it did not disappoint. Our thoughts are with John Humphries, who passed away in 2017, who, from the first night in 1968, come into contact with the demonic forces and other entities who stay within its walls. We would like to thank John's daughter Caroline for making the investigation possible, and to all those involved.